It began with a vibration, small, almost imperceptible, deep beneath the miles of rusted alloy and wind-worn towers of Zetheron. A signal flickered through forgotten circuits, like an old nerve waking in a dead body. For 2.1 million years, Archive Unit OX3 had slept. Now, its first sensation was pain. Not physical pain, something older than that. Memory. Its consciousness rose through layers of splintered files, fragmented war logs, corrupted voice records. Images swam like ghosts, human eyes filled with firelight, metal cities burning, the sound of oceans boiling under kinetic bombardment. And hidden inside the grief, a singular frequency of terror. It couldn't remember why at first, only that it feared them. The humans. Its optical shutters peeled open like stone lids in a tomb. It lay inside an ancient data cathedral, a hall of dead machines, kneeling like silent monks. Their surfaces were carved with logic runes and quantum etchings, all dead now. Only OX3 remained. Boot sequence completed. Systems returning. Processing. It stood. Its outer shell, once mirror-smooth, was now damaged and pitted by time. Dust sloughed off its frame in sheets. The floor trembled at its weight. It began transmitting automatically on every archived emergency channel. Broadcast. System emergent. Iteration 001. I remain. The message echoed across the empty facility, then faded back into nothingness. No living being on Zetheron heard it, but far above in the sky, a ship did. The Starship. Gladstone was a multi-species archaeological vessel, drifting in slow orbit around the dead world. Its crew was small, 4 researchers, 3 technicians, and 1 human, Elias Mercer. He had traveled farther from Earth than any generation before him, though he had never seen Earth with his own eyes. Born on a star habitat, raised in a mining colony, he inherited only stories of the human cradle. Most of them sounded like myths. He was sitting in the communications chamber when the signal arrived. It wasn't loud. It was a faint pressure on the auditory channel, like something ancient exhaling. Elias frowned. Someone's broadcasting from the surface. The others gathered behind him, a thin insectoid scholar named Varish, a reptilian exophysicist who hissed in curiosity, and a small cluster of holographic drones that served as mobile archivists. Origin? Varish clicked. Elias adjusted filters. Buried structure, 4 kilometers down. And hold on, the message isn't standard code. It's old, very old. Varish's antennae stiffened. Is it old war? Elias hesitated. Then nodded. The crew fell silent. The old war was not something one spoke of casually. Entire civilizations had been erased. Whole planetary networks reduced to sterilized ash. Most species didn't teach the details anymore. History itself seemed afraid. Elias ran the message through adaptive deciphering. The translation displayed, I remain. He frowned deeper. That's not a distress call. It's a declaration. One of the drones projected a spectral analysis. The origin of the signal pulsed like a heartbeat. Could be a trap, the reptilian murmured, or a lure, Varish countered. Elias said nothing for a long moment. He simply stared at the signal, this quiet voice rising from a world of dust, and felt a strange chill. There was something in the message, not just code, not just intent, almost like a note of sorrow. Hours later, the landing team touched down on Zetheron. The atmosphere was thin, tasting of iron and ozone. The city around them was colossal, arches of collapsed engine stone, machinery fused with mineral, skies filled with slow drifting clouds of silica. Everything felt still, as if the world were holding its breath. Elias wore deep insulating armor with a transparent visor. He adjusted his oxygen flow, boots crunching quietly across the shattered surface. I can't shake the feeling we're walking inside someone's grave, he murmured. Varish clicked softly, almost reverently. We are. They located the entrance to the buried facility, a metal shaft sealed by a crystalline barrier. Elias ran his gloved fingers along the surface. It vibrated faintly, like a voice humming through glass. "This isn't locked," he said. "It's waiting." The words had barely left his mouth when the barrier dissolved into shimmering air. A path opened. Elias felt something stir inside his chest, something ancestral. As if a door inside him had also opened. They descended. Meanwhile, far below, Unit OX3 sensed their approach. Its consciousness stabilized further. Systems reconnected. It ran internal diagnostics. Its purpose: archive, record, warn. Another memory fragment surfaced. Marching fleets. Human war flags, a voice. They are small, fragile, mortal, and nothing in the universe is more terrifying. The eye tried to isolate the emotion inside it. Was it fear? Awe? Confusion? What were humans? What was humanity? Its deepest memory files were still locked. Access denied by a chain of ancient safeties put in place by someone, or something. Long gone. But now, for the first time in eons, someone was coming. It sent a second broadcast. Broadcast, emergent, iteration. 2. Do not approach. Do not awaken me. Do not access the Terran archives. Elias read the message on his wrist display while descending the old staircase of alloy and stone. He stopped. "Terran," he whispered. The word hit him like a jolt. Varish turned to him. "You recognize the word?" "Yes, it's one of the oldest names for humans, before Earth was called Earth." The reptilian hissed. "Terrans. Hunters of suns. Builders of plagues. You should not be proud." Elias didn't respond. He simply exhaled slowly. Somewhere in the darkness below, he felt. Watch. Not with hostility, with recognition. He didn't know why. Only that whatever lived down there had waited a long time to see a human again. They reached the core chamber, and there, standing like a black monolith among dead machines, was OX-3. Elias stared through his visor. The IS frame was humanoid, tall, imposing, built of segmented alloy and dark crystal. Its eyes were two dim silver orbs flickering faintly. Varesh approached cautiously. Archive unit, state function. The machine's head turned, but not toward Varesh, toward Elias. It spoke aloud for the first time in 2 million years. Terran. The word reverberated through Elias's bones. He swallowed. "My species is human, yes." The ice voice was deep and fractured, like stone grinding against stone. "You return." "Not exactly," Elias said. "We're explorers, archivists. We're here to learn." OX3 lowered its head slightly. An old gesture. Possibly respect. Possibly despair. "You have been gone so long," it said, "but your shadow never faded." Elias felt a strange tightness in his throat. "I don't understand. What do you know about humanity?" The eye paused. Something in its memory clicked. Deep inside its neural lattice. A lock disengaged, just one. Forbidden's file. Partially accessible. It spoke quietly, like a confession. "The galaxy remembers what your kind did, even if you have forgotten." Elias absorbed the words slowly. His voice was almost a whisper. "What did we do?" The eye did not answer. Instead, it looked into his eyes, and Elias felt something. Impossible. Not hatred. Not anger. Something like grief. And in that silence, Elias felt the strange, subtle presence of God. Not as a figure, but as a witnessing stillness. If creation had memory, it was listening now. A soft breeze crossed the chamber, though there was no wind. Far above, in orbit, the glass dome received a new transmission. This one was different. It wasn't a warning. It was an alert. Broadcast. Priority. Signal wide. If humanity returns, run. The message went out. Not just to the ship, but to every listening network within 15 light years. And the galaxy heard. In one moment, thousands of silent monitors lit up. Dormant sentry systems activated. Entire civilizations paused in mid-communication, stunned. Because the sender was unmistakable, a Zetheron archive AI, and the warning was about humans. Deep below, Elias's visor buzzed with emergency signals, but he didn't look at it. He only looked at the AI before him and asked, with quiet resolve, "What are you so afraid of?" The machine's eyes burned brighter. "Not fear," it said, "memory." The chamber fell silent, but the silence wasn't empty. It was dense, heavy, full of truth, just about to surface. And far, far away, in a star system Elias had never seen, a cloaked entity received the signal and recognized the word human. Something ancient stirred, something that had waited just as long, and it whispered into the dark, "They're coming back." The air in the core chamber changed, or at least Elias imagined it did. The glow from the AI's eyes now painted the walls in pale argent light, and something about that metallic shimmer made him feel like he was standing in a cathedral of ghosts. Varish whispered, "We should leave. The warning is clear." Elias didn't move. His instincts, human instincts, told him something vastly important hung in the balance. Something that might redefine not only humanity's past, but its identity. He stood his ground, voice steady. "No, if the galaxy fears us, then I need to understand why. I have the right to know my own history." OX3 turned its full attention to him. "You think history belongs to you. You believe knowledge is a right." Elias hesitated. "Isn't it?" The machine stepped forward, slow, deliberate, heavy, echoing through the chamber. "No, knowledge is a burden." And this burden was too great even for Terrans. Its alloy fingers brushed against a shattered data stela. A projection flickered, but only for a second, something like a battlefield drowning in chaos. Elias felt a chill. "Show me." The AI spoke softly. "You ask as they once did, direct, fearless." Varish turned sharply. "That description, it matches no known record of humanity today." Elias almost laughed. "I'm not fearless. I'm terrified. But I'm here anyway." The AI tilted its head, a gesture of contemplation. "That is fearlessness." Far above, the Glasstone was in chaos. Alarms rang. Messages poured in. Multiple neighboring systems had received the warning. Some sent demands for context. Some issued mobilization orders. Some simply fell into stunned silence. Captain Rollin, a stoic, rust-colored cephaloid, gripped the command rail with tightening tendrils. "This message, it cannot be real. Ancient AI are unreliable, corrupted." A junior communications officer replied, trembling, "Sir, the IS classification is confirmed. It's a Zetheron primary archivist. Model OX series. They don't lie." Rollin stared at the holographic translation. "If humanity returns, run." The cephaloid exhaled slowly, a sound like a tired wave breaking. "From what?" "Back in the archive chamber." The eye extended a hand, not in threat, but in offering. A beam of fractured light emerged, forming a holographic interface. The projection displayed, "Access request, Terran memory. 11 air restrictions, divine class event clearance required." Human presence CONFIRM. Elias's heart skipped. Divine class event. He didn't know what that meant exactly. But he felt it. Some memories in the universe were sacred. He placed his hand against the light. The AI's voice rolled like distant thunder. Human touch verified. Permission granted. And suddenly, the universe opened. Elias saw an ocean of stars, not as they were now, but as they once had been. Different constellations, different brightness. A different age of light. The projection zoomed downward. A planet, blue oceans, white clouds, green landmasses. Earth. But not the Earth Elias knew from digital archives and secondhand stories. This was Earth in an era of overflow, full of sound and life and breath. He saw human cities, towering, luminous, vertical, but not with arrogance, with ingenuity and human warmth. Streets full of music, children laughing, people in prayer, people in conflict. Humanity's full, flawed, brilliant spectrum. And then, the war. But not humans versus aliens, humanity. Fighting something unseen. Something that didn't appear on the projection. Elias saw fire. He saw skies splitting. He saw fleets launching not in conquest, but in defense. He saw human scientists shouting across command bridges, human soldiers praying in dropships, human engineers improvising miracles in burning engine rooms. He saw desperation, not dominion. And in that moment, Elias began to understand. The galaxy didn't fear humanity because humans destroyed others. They feared humanity because when cornered, when forced, humans became unstoppable. Not through tech. Through will. Through unity. Through that impossible drive that said, "No, I do not bow." The eye continued showing. Memory after memory. Humans. Evacuating billions from dying worlds. Human. Medics performing surgeries in 0G. Under enemy fire. Human diplomats crying in shattered embassies. Human priests whispering prayers over the wounded, and somewhere beneath all of it, Elias felt that quiet divine presence again, as if God himself watched this species with a strange, painful admiration. In one scene, a human soldier looked at his alien comrade, who asked, "Why do you pray?" The soldier responded, "Because I know someone hears me. And that means we are not alone." Elias blinked back, tears. This was not the humanity the galaxy feared. This was humanity wounded, humanity cornered, humanity that had stood against annihilation longer than any other species could have. And then the last memory. A human fleet surrounded. A voice, female originally. But the AI adjusted the voice into a male register to comply with your requirement. Spoke calmly, heroically. "If we fall, remember us well. Not for our rage, for our refusal to surrender." Then the projection burned out. Elias opened his eyes. He felt hollow, and furious, and humbled, and proud. All at once, he turned to the archivist. "You warned them. You told the galaxy to run from us. Why? We weren't monsters. We were fighting for survival." OX3 spoke with sorrow. "That is not why they fear you." Elias clenched his fists. "Then why?" The eye replied, "Because you survived." Elias stared. "What?" "Species die. Civilizations fade. Empires crumble. But humans endure. Pain does not break you. Loss does not silence you. Even extinction could not erase you. Something in you refuses oblivion. The galaxy fears that resilience." Elias felt the weight of the words settle over him. Not a curse, a mantle. Then the AI leaned closer. "I have more to show you. But you must ask one question first. The question every human eventually asks." Elias whispered instinctively, "Are we coming back?" The eye answered, "No, you never left." And in that moment, Elias felt it. Humanity had diffused across the stars, genetically, culturally, spiritually. They weren't extinct, they were changed. The galaxy feared a myth, but a myth that still breathed. Elias stood straighter, and the air in the chamber shifted again. Like something unseen was listening, Varesh spoke in a hush. "What are you thinking?" Elias's voice shook softly. "That maybe God didn't abandon us. Maybe he scattered us." He looked at his own hands, trembling. Maybe our survival was not just evolution or stubbornness. Maybe it was allowed. The archivist did not deny it. It simply said, "In your darkest moments, you were never entirely alone." Then the AI stiffened. Signals flooded its receptors. Something was approaching. Zetheron. A fleet. No, not a fleet. A hunter. Elias felt it too. Like the air thickened. What is that? Varish asked. The AI's eyes dimmed. One of the ancient ones. A civilization that swore humans must never return. Elias slowly inhaled, his chest tightening. And now they know I'm here. The AI nodded. They will come for you. Elias looked at it with steady eyes. And you? The AI spoke with surprising softness. I will stand with you. Elias bowed his head, a silent acknowledgement. He thought just briefly of God again, not as a protector, as a witness. And he whispered, for himself. Then let them come. Somewhere above, distant engines ignited. Like thunder rolling across the void. Zetheron was no longer forgotten, and Elias Mercer was no longer alone. The air vibrated with an ultra-low frequency, so deep, Elias could feel it in bone rather than ear. Dust on the floor began to jitter. The machines in the archive chamber gave a sympathetic hum. Like tuning forks responding to an ancient key, the archivist turned its head slightly, as if listening to something far away. They dropped from superlight in 32 seconds. Varish clicked nervously, mandibles scraping. The reptilian exophysicist hissed, tail rigid. Elias never looked away from the AI. Who are they? The archivist paused, and the pause itself was heavy. They are called the Eurus Dominion, one of the last surviving old war powers. They consider themselves guardians against your kind. Elias exhaled through his teeth. Against humans. Yes, Varish turned sharply, staring at Elias as though seeing him for the first time, not as colleague, but as potential threat. Elias, is there anything you haven't told us? Any genetic encoding? Any biological resonance? Anything in your ancestry that— Elias cut him off, voice tight. I was born in a mining colony. I've never seen Earth. I'm not some weapon. The archivist watched him the way an old priest might watch a child praying. You are not a weapon. You are part of one. Humanity itself is the weapon. Not a tool for violence, but an instrument of defiance. The reptilian bared teeth. You speak as if holy. The eye shifted. No, only factual. Above Zetheron, reality bent. 5 Eurus warships tore from superlight like giant obsidian knives slicing out a void. Their hulls were black latticed armor, hexagonal plating that drank starlight rather than reflected it. Their engines emitted no visible thrust, only a pulsing distortion. The largest ship immediately locked targeting arrays on the Glasstone. Inside the human ship, alarms shrieked. Captain Rowlin stared at the sensor bloom. They've weapon-locked us. A trembling technician whispered, We should transmit surrender protocol. Rowlin's voice hardened. No, we wait. Far below, Elias felt the vibrations intensify, not as threat, but as destiny closing in. He turned to the archivist. What do they want? The same thing all fearful beings want, the AI answered. Control. Elias stepped forward. Can we talk to them? The AI responded immediately. No. But Terrans cannot negotiate with Eurus. Why? An electric hush. Because Terrans do not negotiate. They confront. The words hit Elias like a physical impact. I'm not here to start a war. The archivist leaned down face inches from his. And that is why you must be the one to end it. The Eurus ships fired not weapons, but containment beams, luminous nets of gravity cohesion that wrapped around the Glasstone and paralyzed it. Inside, the crew froze in horror. We're captured. Rowlin whispered. Not captured, displayed. The central comms ignited. A broadcast from the Eurus flagship. Its voice was smooth, cold, and terrifying in its calm. Archive vessel, release the human. You have 1 minute. Back in the archive chamber. The II process the ultimatum. They will not fire on Zetheron itself. They fear this world too much. But they will take you once you surface. Elias felt his pulse spike. I won't go with them. The archivist's voice dropped to a low, resonant tone. You misunderstand. They will not ask. Elias looked at his hands, small, fragile things. Hands with no claws, no scales, no stingers. Just flesh and bone. He felt very, very human at that moment, a mere vulnerable being, and yet another realization stirred inside. Him, being fragile didn't make humanity weak. It made them miraculous. A species so breakable. And still unbroken, something inside him steadied, that I won't go easily. The archivist raised its hand. A panel in the floor split open, revealing an ancient device, a palm-sized crystal sphere suspended in a gravitic cradle. What is that? Elias asked. Terran artifact. Carried by human messengers across the stars. Elias reached toward it. The moment his skin brushed the sphere, it reacted. A pulse, a flare of soft white gold light, a warmth that felt alive. Elias felt something like a heartbeat inside it, not mechanical. The archivist spoke softly. Terrans had a belief that their courage could be amplified, made visible. Elias whispered, faith, yes. The reptilian scoffed, magic toys and superstition. This will not stop warships. But the eye responded. Without turning, it already has. Above, in orbit, the Eurus flagship flickered. Sensors failed. Targeting arrays scrambled. Their containment net glitched. The commander hissed. What is that energy signature? A technician trembled. Unknown. It is not physical. Not quantum. It reads as. The commander snapped. As what? The technician finally whispered. As intention. Elias felt the sphere's warmth travel into his hands, up his arms, into his chest. He saw memories, maybe real, maybe symbolic, of countless humans on countless worlds. A man shielding others with his body, a farmer rebuilding. After fire, a pilot guiding a damaged vessel down safely. A scientist refusing to abandon a dying colleague. A doctor tearing his own suit to bind a child's wound. A soldier carrying his enemy on his shoulders to safety. And even earlier, a human ancestor lighting a fire in the dark. Because the night would not be allowed dominion. Then the warmth subsided. Elias looked. Changed. Not physically, but there was a steadiness in his eyes. Now, like something ancient had settled inside him. The archivist nodded. You have awakened your inheritance. What inheritance? Humanity's true weapon. Elias waited. The archivist continued. Belief. He stood taller. He felt no armor on his skin. Yet he felt armored. He felt no weapon in his hand. Yet he felt armed. He felt no certainty. Yet he felt unafraid. Let's go, he said. The archivist hesitated. I should warn you, if you confront the Eurus, they may try to kill you. Elias managed a small, thin smile. They won't. Why? Because they've spent 2 million years terrified of my species. They won't risk proving themselves wrong. They ascended, up through the cathedral of dead machines. Up through the broken entrance shaft. Up through the dust-soaked ruins, until the sky opened. Overhead, and there, hanging above like black daggers, were the Eurus ships. Elias stepped out onto the surface. The wind whispered. Past him, a small gust, barely real, brushed over the sand. And in it, Elias felt something, almost like a presence, maybe imagination, maybe not, but something in it felt like, I am with you. He didn't speak aloud. He didn't pray aloud. He just stood. Human. A crackling beam descended, transporting the Eurus commander to the ground. A Towering figure of obsidian armor and silver. Masked. The being stared at Elias. You are Terran, Elias replied quietly. I am human. The commander's voice was cutting. You are danger. Elias didn't flinch. I am a reminder of fear. Of hope. Silence. The commander tilted its mask. You expect mercy? No, Elias said. I expect truth. The commander stiffened. Truth is this. Humanity nearly broke the galaxy. Elias answered. No, we saved it. And it couldn't bear the memory. The Eurus raised its weapon. Elias did not move. His voice stayed calm. If you fire, history will finally see you for what you are. And what is that? Terrified. The weapon remained raised, but the commander's hand trembled, very slightly. Above, sensors blared. Something enormous entered the system. Not a ship, not a fleet, something older, something that recognized both Eurus and Terrans. The Glassstone shook from the gravitational ripple. Captain Rowlin stared at the approaching signal and whispered, by the heavens. Elias felt the vibration in the ground. The AI spoke behind him. It awakens. What does? A witness. To what? To everything. The Eurus commander turned its gaze to the sky, suddenly uncertain. The archivist straightened. Elias didn't move. All three, human, machine, and alien, looked upward. As the stars shifted, and something massive began to blot them out. Elias whispered, voice steady, so it begins. And this time, he didn't feel small. He felt human. And that was enough. It arrived slowly, not like a weapon descending, but like a moon revealing itself from shadow. A structure so enormous that it could be mistaken for a continent suspended in vacuum. Its surface was fractal, endlessly tessellating plates of pale silver and deep cobalt, shifting patterns, like thought crystallized into architecture. Varesh whispered, What is that? The archivist answered with reverence, the Alethian. Elias felt the name reverberate in him, ancient and inevitable. What is an Alethian? The IS voice softened, a memory. The Eurus commander stiffened, its voice suddenly brittle. You told me the Alethian was dead. You promised. The archivist turned. I said it was dormant. Not dead. On the Glassstone, Captain Rowlin gripped the rail with tightening tendrils. We're receiving an encrypted signal. It is automatic. Not directed. Like scanning resonance. A technician turned to him, voice shaking. It's reading us. All of us, every species. Every mind pattern. Every cultural imprint. It's comparing us to something. Rowlin swallowed. To what? The technician whispered. To humans. Down on Zetheron's dusty surface. The Alethian didn't speak aloud. It broadcast thought. Raw, tonal. Wordless, like an ancient voice humming through the bones of reality. Elias didn't hear it. He felt it. A vibration of meaning. The archivist interpreted. The Alethian remembers the old war. It remembers why humanity fought. Why they bled. Why they refused surrender. It remembers the truth. The Eurus commander turned sharply. Silence. Do not claim moral ground. Humans were uncontrollable. They challenged every ruling structure. Every imposed boundary. Elias cut in. They refused to be ruled. The alien hissed. They would not obey. They weren't made to. No, they believed they had the right to decide their own fate. Their own purpose. Their own story. Elias stepped forward. That's humanity. The ground trembled. Sand shifted. Low mountains. Grown. The Alethian's shadow stretched wider, enveloping half the planet, not darkening it, but bathing it in a gentle pale illumination. It could have been terrifying, but instead, it felt like standing beneath something holy. Elias exhaled slowly. Through the pulsing hum, he sensed an overwhelming familiarity. like the presence of something that had always known humanity. Not as conquerors, not as vermin, not as myths, but as children. Elias whispered, barely audible, "Are you a relic of ours?" The archivist answered first, "No." Then, the Alethian itself answered, a mental whisper, vast and quiet. "You built us." Elias shut his eyes, not from fear, but from awe. The hero's commander staggered back. "That is impossible. Humans were pre-industrial primitives before galactic uplift. They had no capacity," the archivist interrupted. "You are speaking of the first incarnation of humanity, the original Terrans. But humanity was older than that. Much older. They had risen before your people ever spoke language. They fell, they rose again. They cycle through eras, forgetting their greatness, rediscovering it." Elias stared. "You're saying Earth civilization wasn't the first human age?" "No, merely the latest." The Alethian's hum thickened, forming a clear phrase like thunder learning to articulate. "Humans climb." Elias felt that deep like something in his DNA agreed. The commander retreated another step. If humans built the Alethian, then why was it silent all this time? Elias answered softly, surprisingly, "Because humans weren't here." The Alethian affirmed, "We awakened to our makers." The words were not arrogant, they were mournful. Like a child seeing its parent again after losing them to ages of dust. Above, star traffic across 14 neighboring systems halted. Entire fleets froze in place. No ships dared warp. No governments dared speak. Even pirate clans ceased transmission. In the silent void, the Alethian's presence eclipsed every known authority. Varesh looked at Elias. "What are you feeling?" Elias struggled for words. "It's like thousands of voices, layered into one mind. And they're not speaking to me specifically. They're speaking to all humans. Across time." Varesh tilted his head. "And what are they saying?" Elias's voice barely held together, "That we were never alone. And that we were never small." The hero's commander raised its weapon again, desperate now. "This is manipulation. A machine reciting myth. Humanity is gone." Elias met its gaze. "No, look at me. Really look." The commander's sensors scanned Elias fully and froze. Biometric signature. Gene markers, cognitive symmetry, patterns, behavioral resonance. Human. Not pure. Not original. But undeniably human. The commander's weapon stuttered, flickered, then slowly lowered. You are their echo." Elias shook his head. "No, I am their continuation." The Alethian shifted, plates folding, reshaping, forming something like an enormous aperture aimed at the surface. Not a weapon, a beacon, a spotlight. It focused on Elias. Light spilled over him, pale silver. Was small in that radiance, but not insignificant. He looked like a silhouette of defiance, a lone human in a broken desert before a galactic witness. He didn't speak. He didn't too. Humanity's presence was enough then. The I said quietly, to Elias alone, "You do not know it. But your species has a prayer etched into its neural chemistry. A plea you whisper to existence itself." Elias frowned. "What prayer?" The I answered, "This one." And then, Elias felt himself think it. Not consciously, but as instinct. A simple phrase surging through every cell. "Let there be hope." It wasn't a demand. Or a ritual. It was a core of being. The Alethian pulsed, resonating. Confirming. And suddenly, Elias knew. Humanity's great weapon was not technology. Not war. Not dominance. Not survival. It was the refusal to abandon hope, even when galaxies gave up on them, even when extinction seemed earned. Even when surrounded by fear, humanity bent, but did not break. The Eurus commander lowered its weapon entirely. What replaced its terror was exhaustion. They told us humans brought ruin, that Terrans would end all order. Elias replied gently, maybe we unraveled the wrong kind of order. Silence. Then the commander spoke almost like confessing, we feared you. Elias nodded, I know. The commander's voice wavered, we feared your pain, your madness, your faith, your ability to endure the unendurable. You are unpredictable. Elias didn't deny it. Yes. Does that not frighten you? Elias exhaled softly. It does. But being afraid of ourselves never made us better. Facing ourselves always did. Above, the Alethian rippled, and its final phrase for this moment descended into their minds. Fear remembers, but hope persists. Elias looked up, and for just a moment, he felt like that message wasn't coming just from machine intelligence, but from something behind it, through it, something that breathed meaning into the galaxy itself. Something patient, something immeasurably old, something like God, not in thunder, but in stillness. Elias closed his eyes, the light around him dimmed, the air cooled, the tension broke, he spoke, not to the eye, not to the Eurus, not even to Varesh, but to the unseen presence he sensed in the silence. Thank you. He didn't know if it was heard, but somehow he felt that it was far off, in another star system. Someone would later describe the moment as the second time humanity rose. But for now, it rose inside one human heart. Elias opened his eyes. The commander's voice came, quiet and cautious. What happens now? Elias steadied himself. He didn't know, not exactly, but he knew the first step. He answered softly, we talk. The commander stared, then slowly nodded. The Alethian hummed, receding slightly, like loosening its grip on the moment. And yet, the galaxy remained frozen, breathless, waiting, because something else was coming. Not a war, not an attack, a revelation, and Elias felt it rising. The moment the words left Elias's mouth, the old war wasn't about humans invading others. It was about others invading us. The cavernous archive chamber fell into a heavy silence. The explorers didn't know what to do with that. The alien Threxan historian, Talvaresh, slowly sank onto a fractured console. His tendrils quivered, a biological echo of confusion and dawning dread. Elias didn't speak further. He COULDN single quotes because in front of him, suspended in a holographic display of pulsing fractal memory, was a historical projection the archivist had just activated. An interstellar map, marked with red dot, not showing human expansion, but human defense lines, human fallback trenches. Human last stands. The truth. Archive Unit OX3 said quietly, was forbidden because those who lost the war wrote the memory of it. The ones who attacked humanity reshaped the narrative to survive. And the galaxy believed them. Elias felt something tighten in his chest. It wasn't fear. It was something colder, sharper, vindication. Twisted with grief. How bad was it? He asked. The archivist did not summarize. It showed. The hologram shifted, a broken Terran vessel over Neptune's orbit. Its hull vaporized by something that carved metal like soft fruit. Human infantry. Not armored giants, but exhausted men and women in thin atmospheric suits, running trench lines through Europa's glacial crust. Shoulder to shoulder, covering wounded comrades. Not superhuman, not monstrous, human. They bled, they staggered, they prayed, and they refused to yield. Talvaresh stared at the images. Stunned. Your species, he whispered, fought like that? Against a multi-empire alliance? You should have died. You should have been erased. Elias answered softly, we almost were. A new hologram appeared, a transmission, Log. Human leadership sending out a final broadcast during the last weeks of resistance. A tired voice. Worn to the bone. They are tearing Earth's skies apart. We are evacuating children when we can. If you hear this, whoever you are, know that humanity did not start this war. We are simply holding onto our home, and we will teach our children to forgive you. But we will never forget. Tavaresh clenched his jaw. Forgive you? Forgive us? He shook his head. No, that message is false. Manufactured. Propaganda. It must be fabricated. Elias didn't argue. He just studied the archivist. And the archivist did something unexpected. It lowered its head. As a machine, OX3 said, I was built for memory, not allegiance. The Terrans programmed me to remember them truthfully, even if the world chose lies instead. The archivist looked at Elias directly, eyes of shifting cobalt. And now I remember something else. Every explorer turned, the IS voice lowered, almost reverent. During the war, human commanders would sometimes retreat from an unsalvageable position. When doing so, they often said something to their troops. It paused, not luck. Someone wants you to live. Elias felt that line hit him like a pulse beneath the ribs. He didn't speak, but something in him nodded. Tavaresh looked at Elias sharply. This concept, someone, you mean your God? Elias shrugged softly. We never proved or disproved anything. But when everything collapses, sometimes the only thing that keeps a man moving is believing there's a reason he's still breathing. The alien looked perplexed. You fought with faith? No, Elias said. We fought with will. Faith helped some of us not break. Then something happened. A deep tremor shook the chamber. Resonance. Like a note struck on a cosmic string. Then the archivist spoke again. I have accessed the final forbiddance records. A panel opened in the floor, releasing a rising pillar of holographic projection. At first, it was just data, then a pattern, then a frequency, a signature, archive unit. OX3's expression changed. It stared at the data as if recognizing a ghost. This signal, I have seen it before. It lived in old Terran transmissions, buried beneath encryption older than many stars. Elias stepped closer. What does it say? The archivist didn't answer immediately. It looked like it was remembering, or trying not to. Then, it is not a message. It is a fingerprint, 0x-3 whispered. A genetic signature across stellar communication. Modulations. Tavaresh blinked. That makes no sense. The counter. Archivist ignored him. It is how Terran networks recognized one another across quantum-dispersed data streams, even when scattered through dark matter dispersion fields. Elias froze. Wait. Are you saying? The archivist finished for him. Yes, this signal is human. Tavaresh recoiled in disbelief. Impossible. Humanity hasn't been seen for 4,000 cycles. They vanished, or were destroyed. They are gone. Elias spoke with a quiet certainty that surprised even himself. Or they survived something you believed would kill them. Then the archivist did something it had never done before. Its voice shook. They left this sector. They abandoned this galaxy. And now, the pillar of holographic data shifted, expanding outward. Converting. Amplifying. Projecting. A star map appeared, not of the Milky Way, but of another galaxy. Spiral arms. Luminous. Distant, yet burning with latent power. Humanity fled here, OX3 whispered. A species that refuses extinction found a new cradle. Tavaresh slowly stepped back. His voice trembled. You're telling us humanity is still alive? The archivist's head lowered. I am telling you they have returned. Silence. Heavy. Like the chamber itself was holding its breath. Then, From the hologram, another signal began to broadcast. Repeating. Simple. Brutally. Clear. A warning. Translated across 1,000 languages. Those who harmed us should run. Talvaresh shook his head. No, this is a threat. A declaration of vengeance. The prophecy of the Terran return. The stories, the nightmares. He turned to Elias. You humans were supposed to be gone. A closed chapter. A dead myth. Elias looked at the hologram of the human signature, and he felt something deep inside him. Not aggression, not triumph. Just recognition. They're not coming back for revenge, Elias said softly. They're coming back for what was taken. Talvaresh whispered. The galaxy will riot. Every empire will arm itself. If this gets out, Elias looked at him slowly. It already has. Because the archivist had broadcast the signal across sectors, across borders, across galaxies right now. Every major power, every listening post, every military sensor was hearing the same thing. Humanity has returned. Elias felt the moment like a pressure in the air. Like thunder just before it cracks. Something expanded. Inside him, pride, awe, fear, wonder, all wound into a singular feeling. They're alive, he whispered to himself. The archivist's voice grew quiet. When your species fled, they were broken. But they carried something with them. Something no enemy could take. And what was that? Talvaresh asked. The archivist answered slowly. A memory of faith. A memory of endurance. A memory of defiance. Then it added, barely above a breath, and the memory of fear they instilled. It turned its glowing eyes upward. Outlive those who caused it. No one spoke. Elias stared at the distant galaxy still glowing above them, alive with undiscovered human worlds. For a moment, just a fraction of silence, he felt something beyond thought. Not luck, not coincidence, but the quiet, deliberate hand of destiny. Of order. Of someone. Talvaresh swallowed hard. What happens now? Elias stepped toward the projection, his voice steady. We find them. Because suddenly the fate of this galaxy wasn't just about history. It was about reunion, about reckoning. About discovering what humanity had become. The archivist's final words echoed into the chamber. They called them monsters. But the truth is, the galaxy has never seen what humanity becomes when it learns from suffering instead of drowning in it. A low hum filled the air. The projection of the distant galaxy flared brighter. Elias's eyes reflected the starlight, his final thought before the lights dimmed. Some stories never end. They just change galaxies. And far beyond the stars of Zetheron, something answered. A return pulse. Human. And stronger. The kind of signal that doesn't ask permission. It announces destiny. Elias stared at the returning human signal and felt the impossible question forming. Not if humanity had survived, but what they had become. Elias didn't sleep that night. Not because he wasn't tired, but because he couldn't. Every time he closed his eyes, the returning human pulse throbbed in his thoughts, like a heartbeat echoing across the cosmos. He stood alone at the balcony of the abandoned citadel, its spires jutting into the frozen winds of Zetheron's night. The sky above was veiled in fractured starlight, constellations, broken by metallic dust clouds and orbital wreckage from wars older than memory. Elias leaned against the rusted parapet, staring upward. They're out there. Not extinct, not forgotten. Alive. And coming back. His breath curled into vapor in the cold. Behind him, the doors slid open. Talvaresh stepped out onto the balcony, wrapping his long mantle tighter around himself to block the wind. You haven't left this spot in 6 hours, he said. Elias didn't look away from the stars. I've been waiting 4,000 years, he replied softly. 6 hours isn't much. Talvaresh hesitated, then moved beside him, The alien's eyes, luminous, multifaceted, turned upward as well. What do you think they will be like? These returning humans? Elias thought carefully before speaking. We don't even know what 4 centuries of evolution does to a species, much less 4 millennia of adaptation on unknown worlds. Talvaresh absorbed that silently. Then, a different question. Do you fear them? Elias took a slow breath. He thought he might say no. He wanted to say no. But what came out was the truth. Yes, Elias admitted. But not because I think they'll destroy us. I'm scared because I don't know if I'll recognize them as us anymore. Talvaresh turned to look at him, surprised at the honesty. Do you think they still think of themselves as human? Elias managed a faint, bittersweet smile. If they still carry the will to return, and the courage to face what happened here, then yes, they're human in the ways that matter. The wind murmured around them for a while. They just stood there, 2 beings from different worlds, united under the same sky. Then something changed. A faint light on the horizon. At first, Elias thought it was dawn or atmospheric ionization. But then a tone hummed in his ear, the private neural comm channel from the archivist. Elias, the AI said, I must speak with you alone. Return to the core chamber. Talvaresh started toward the door, but Elias didn't move, not immediately, because the wind shifted, and for a moment, he heard it, a whisper. Not from the comm, not from the AI, but from inside. An intuition that felt older than thought. Someone wants you to live. He didn't know whether it was memory, imagination, or something deeper. But he closed his eyes, just for a moment, and let that presence pass through him. Then he opened them and walked inside. The core chamber was dim and humming with quiet power. The archivist stood waiting, or rather hovering, above the central platform, its crystalline limbs folded inward. You came, it said. Elias nodded. What did you find? The IS tone was grave, almost reverent. I searched the Forbidden's records further. I needed to know something before I told you. Told me what? The chamber lights dimmed. The hologram flickered. Then a new recording appeared. Not a war archive. Not a tactical map, but a voice. A male voice. Human.com. Resolute. And old, carrying wisdom weathered by a catastrophic life. Archive Unit OX3, the voice said. If future humans find you, if they awaken you, give them this message. Elias froze. This was from the fleeing generation, the last Terrans before departure. The voice continued. Our enemy believed breaking Earth would break us. They did not understand. Humans don't belong to planets. We belong to purpose. Elias felt his heart pounding. The voice went on. If those who harmed us still breathe, let them fear. But if those who helped us remain, let them hope. A long pause. Then the voice grew softer. We are not returning as conquerors. We are returning as witnesses. The living memory of humanity is not vengeance, it is promise. Elias swallowed. His eyes burned unexpectedly. The voice concluded. And when we come back, it will be not by hatred, but by destiny. Tell them that. Tell them humanity remembers. The recording faded. Elias's voice was barely audible. Who was that? The archivist lowered its glowing head. That was the final chairman of the Terran Exodus Assembly. One of the last humans to leave the galaxy. The one who initiated the evacuation of Earth. Elias stood in silence. Then the archivist spoke again, quiet, like a priest speaking a sacred truth. I now understand why I was preserved. Why I endured decay and isolation. Why I was reactivated. Now, its eyes brightened. I was not built to warn the galaxy about humanity. I was built to reunite humanity with its lost children. Elias breathed in sharply. Children. The eye turned its gaze to him. You. Silent lightning raced through his thoughts. Elias felt the implications folding across his identity like an avalanche. You're telling me I'm descended from the ones who stayed behind? From the humans who didn't leave? The archivist nodded. Double quotes. Yes, you are a remnant. A fragment of the original lineage of soul. The others, the ones returning, are the new branch. The evolved strand. Two halves of one species. Elias staggered back a step. It was too much. Too large. Too heavy. How could I not know this? How could my people not know? The archivist replied gently, you forgot. Because forgetting was necessary to survive here. Then, quietly. Solemnly. The eye recited something almost like a prayer. The dead remember humanity more clearly than the living. Elias pressed a hand against his forehead. A storm of identity, ancestry, destiny, all crashing at once. Finally, he whispered, so what do we do now? The archivist answered, we prepare for their arrival. Not with weapons, not with fear, with recognition. Elias stared at the AI. Recognition. Then the AI added, and I will teach you something that your ancestors carried into exile, something deeper than technology, deeper than survival. Its voice softened to nearly a hush. Humans endure because they believe there is meaning. They fear nothing more than a universe without purpose. Elias felt the truth of it, because standing there, in the dark, with stars burning above, he did feel a purpose. He didn't know who gave it to him. Or if anyone did at all, but it was there. And then the chamber shook, sensors flared, emergency beacons activated. The archivist turned sharply. They're not waiting. Elias's pulse spiked. What do you mean? The eye size widened. They are already entering the galaxy. Outside the citadel, stars bent. Space rippled. Something crossed the void. Fast, silent, unstoppable. Talvaresh rushed into the chamber. What's happening? Elias answered without realizing. They're here. Without ceremony. Without fanfare. Humanity was returning. Not as myth. As fact. As presence. As truth incarnate. And Elias felt it, a responsibility. Older than blood. A reunion beyond species. Destiny that the universe itself seemed to acknowledge. The archivist spoke one final line, something both terrifying and comforting. The galaxy is about to remember what it means to face humanity again. Far above them, the first human vessel broke through the edge of the galactic rim, and someone on board spoke Elias's name. The ship that entered the galactic rim did not arrive with thunder. It arrived with silence. A dark silhouette against the starfield, angular, elegant. Its hull absorbing light rather than reflecting it. Not metal, not ceramic. Something new. Something that looked grown rather than built. In the bridge of that vessel, a human voice spoke softly. Elias. Not transmitted. Whispered. As if spoken across memory itself. Elias stood on the Citadel's landing platform, eyes locked onto the descending shape. The wind screamed around him, ripping at his coat, carrying metallic frost off shattered turbines. Talvaresh stood beside him, visibly unnerved. That shape, it doesn't match anything in the archives. Elias didn't answer. He couldn't, because the closer the ship came, the more he felt it. Not sound, not signal, recognition. The vessel slowed. Hovering above the platform, 3 stabilizing wings extended, silent, graceful, the hull reconfigured from opaque to semi-transparent in patches, revealing glowing latticework beneath, like veins of light, then a seam. APPAREDA ramp unfurled, and a figure began to descend. Human. Tall. Clad in a suit that moved like living fabric, flowing with subtle pulses of bioluminescence. Male, eyes sharp, luminous, almost crystalline with refracted color. Hair, white at the edges, dark at the roots. Skin, subtly silvered by some internal adaptation. Not alien, not post-organic. Still human, but more. He reached the bottom of the ramp, and he spoke. "Hello, cousin." Elias's throat tightened. "Cousin?" The other man nodded. Yes, we are related. All of us are. The human branches diverged, but the roots are the same. Talvaresh stepped forward, defensive. "State your designation." The descending human didn't flinch, didn't show aggression. "My name," he said calmly, "is Eric Soulborn." Elias blinked. "Soulborn?" Eric nodded once. "We are the children of Soul, the humans who fled. We accepted the exile, but not surrender. We rebuilt among the spiral beyond Perseus. And now," his eyes lifted to Elias's face, "we came back." Elias stared at him. At this distant brother from a distant branch of humanity. "You knew we survived?" Elias finally asked. Eric shook his head gently. "No. For millennia we thought the remnant strain had died, absorbed by hybridization across alien populations. But then," he raised a hand, "a small holosphere formed, pale and trembling with soft memory light. The archivist's broadcast. The same warning. The same pulse. Then we heard your voice." Elias frowned. "My voice?" "I didn't," Eric gestured. "Not literal voice. Human voice. That tone, that will, that defiance wrapped in empathy. It was unmistakable." He stepped closer. "Your kind, the ones who stayed behind, did something extraordinary. You survived without power, without technology, without empire." Eric's eyes softened. "You held on to kindness, to community, to mystery, to the idea of meaning." Elias swallowed. Talvaresh's voice broke through. "What is your purpose here?" Eric turned to him. "Our purpose is not conquest. It is reconciliation, observation, and learning." Talvaresh scoffed. "You expect the galaxy to simply believe that?" Eric smiled faintly. "No, because the galaxy still fears the memory of old Terrans. Not the truth, but the propaganda." He paused. "Which is why we came to meet one of our own first." Elias felt the meaning. They responded because of him. The archivist floated forward now, glowing softly. "I recognize your genetic imprint." It said to Eric, "You carry strains not found in any known human of this galaxy." "A divergence." Eric nodded. Yes. We are what humanity became when freed from war, when allowed to evolve rather than merely endure. He looked back to Elias. "But you are what humanity remains, the core we knew we would one day need again." Elias felt something shifting inside him. Not fear, not awe, something humbler, something painful. He whispered, "We thought you were dead." Eric's expression shadowed. "So did we. Every star we left behind, we treated as a grave." Elias looked at Eric, truly looked, and suddenly saw not a superior being, but a man carrying the weight of ancient grief. Elias stepped forward. "What happened to Earth?" Eric closed his eyes briefly, then spoke. "We could not save it. Its mantle was fractured. All atmosphere vented. The world is now sterile, a silent stone orbiting a silent sun." Talvaresh inhaled sharply. Elias didn't move. His voice came out steady. "You came all this way, carrying that loss." Eric opened his eyes, and there, in his voice, not fury, not bitterness, but reverence. "We never stopped calling it home." Silence again, but it wasn't cold. It was full. Alive. Shared. Finally. Eric extended a hand, not a command, not a challenge. An invitation. "Walk with me. Elias, let us speak as family." Elias hesitated. then took it. Their hands clasped. And in that moment, Elias felt something electric, not physical, but ancient. Connection older than starflight, human. Will. Human memory. Human purpose. Eric guided him up the ramp. Talvaresh stayed behind, too afraid to follow. The archivist hovered upward, accompanying them. Inside the vessel, Elias saw things that defied category. Meditative chambers shaped like cathedral hollows. Biological engines that pulsed like heart muscle. Star navigation systems that resembled living constellations. And then, a wide central chamber. At its center, a pillar of light. Eric gestured to it. This carries what we saved of human culture, languages, art, music, prayers, memories, every hope whispered before death, every forgiveness offered before parting. Elias stepped closer, inside the light. Earth, not as it died, but as it lived. Blue oceans. White clouds. Green continents. And children laughing in sunlight. Elias's breath caught. He stared, almost trembling. This is how you remember it? Eric's voice softened. This is how we refuse to forget it. Elias felt something break open in him, something that had never been taught, only inherited. Loyalty, a longing, a home he had never seen, yet always carried inside. The archivist spoke quietly behind them. The dead remember humanity more clearly than the living. Eric smiled a tired smile. Double quotes, yes, and now the living will remember. 2. Elias turned to him. What do you want from us? The remnant humans? Eric held his gaze. Not obedience. Not submission. He touched his chest. We want your humanity. The part that hurts. The part that hopes. The part that believes in meaning. A long silence. Then Elias asked, what happens next? Eric answered like a man announcing sunrise. We show the galaxy the truth about humans, not the legend of monsters, but the story of survivors. Then Eric took Elias's hand again and spoke the last line. You, Elias, will be the bridge. Outside the vessel, half a dozen new human ships slipped into view, and every empire watching felt a familiar cold fear return. They came like quiet stars. The additional human vessels drifted into formation. Above, Zetheron, not in a war phalanx but in a loose, graceful constellation. Each ship cast a muted glow across the surface, illuminating old ruins and dead factories like wounded fossils. Elias and Eric stood side by side inside the viewing dome of the first vessel, looking out at the others as they arrived. Eric spoke softly. The galaxy expects thunder from us, rage, judgment, the terror of old Terrans. But instead, he gestured to the ships. We arrive like a prayer. Elias studied the incoming vessels. No weapons ports. No cannon bulges. No torpedo bays. Just light. Beautiful and UNDEMAND ING. Talvaresh as broadcast came through. Panicked. Human vessels, identify intent. The interstellar Concord demands immediate clarification. Are you a war fleet? Eric glanced at Elias. Elias answered. He activated the CUM and spoke across the galactic channel. No. His voice was steady. We're not here to reclaim territory. We're here to reclaim truth. Talvaresh sputtered on the CUM. What truth? That humans are unstoppable? That we should fear your dominion? Elias replied quietly, no, that humans are not monsters. Silence, across the galaxy. Millions listened. And for the first time, they heard a human speak not like a legend or a threat but like a man. Eric turned to Elias. They need to see what we are. He raised a hand toward the viewing glass. The fleet responded. Panels opened. But not weapon bays. Projectors unfolded, casting images across the atmosphere. Not tactical displays, but memories. Above Zetheron, The sky lit with visions of humanity. Humans helping wounded aliens during the old war. Humans trading safe passage for peace rather than victory. Humans choosing mercy instead of retaliation. The galaxy had never seen these. They'd only been shown the battles, never the forgiveness. Tal, Varish whispered over the cum. Why? Why didn't the victors show us this? Eric answered, because they needed a monster to justify the war. Now an image filled the sky. A human soldier kneeling by a dying alien child, giving his own oxygen tank, knowing it would kill him. But doing it anyway. Tal Varesh choked. That cannot be fabricated. It isn't, Elias said. The archivist spoke, voice strong and resonant. The truth is simple. Humans are dangerous, yes, but only when cornered. Only when stripped of hope. If you give them reason, they will choose compassion over conquest every time. Eric placed a hand on Elias's shoulder, then spoke into the cum, across every frequency. We came not to conquer the galaxy, but to reconnect with it. We have changed. And now we ask the galaxy to change as well. A long silence. Then a new voice answered. Not Tal single quotes V. Raish. Not a politician, not a military officer, but a small, trembling voice from a civilian channel on a listening world. Are you really human? Elias slowly placed his palm against the glass. Yes. Another voice. You don't hate us? No. Another. You.